Hey, I'm Trey Bolin, and this is Origin Stories. I know that every single person has an origin and usually a plot twist that they've had to navigate. And I just really get excited to hear everybody's story. So I've got my friend David with me today, and he's going to share a little bit about his story with us. Hey, David.
Hey Trey, how you doing? Nice
Good.
to be here.
How's your day?
Doing well. Busy, but hey, we're good.
Well, I'm excited for you to share a little bit about your journey. How did you get started? What do you do?
Well, right now I've just started a podcast and we can talk about that later, but I am a business coach focusing on helping people save their time, but I want to do it from a Christian standpoint and not only saving your time, it comes back to me, redeem your time for the days are evil.
Mm,
Also from Psalm, it says, teach us to number our days that we may
mm.
apply our hearts unto wisdom. But yeah, I have a huge story. Believe it or not, I'm about 54 and I have 9 kids.
I
That's
do
my
not believe
two,
that.
like,
I don't believe that for a second.
yeah, that's my two people things that people like, oh wow, I didn't know that. And lots of stories, lots of stories. But where I am today, I'll just go back probably to 2019 or so. I read a lot of books. I went back to school, got my engineering degree, and I read this book called The Cash Flow Quadrant.
Mm,
And in there, if you've read the book, there's two sides of the quadrant. There's the right side and the left side. And the left side is where you trade hours for dollars. You work, you get
mm,
paid a certain hourly rate. The right side, you make money work for you. And it's not necessarily an hour for a dollar thing. And I realized with 9 kids, we didn't always have a lot of money. My income went up and down. And so now that I finally got an engineering job and making more money, I'm like, I'm going to have to save $1,000 a month from now
mm.
till I'm 70 to have a decent retirement. And then I read
Wow.
this book and it's talking about, doing things different from just doing it all hours per dollar to basically owning a business or
Mm,
investing in money. That's where the real wealth comes and passive income comes. So I basically had an aha moment. It's like, I could either put all this money away and I'd be working till I'm 70, or I've listened to a lot of podcasts. A lot of these people seem to 5, 6, 7 years hitting it hard with the business. They have a decent business where they can make
mm,
money and they can have passive income and retire on. So I'm like, I'll go that route. I'll go that route. It's a little bit different route. It's a scary route. And so I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any money because I never had any savings. And then I realized interest rates are really low
mm,
and my house is about paid off. So I basically, I had gotten some inheritance money. I basically refinanced my house and I
mm,
had about $100,000 to just do
mm.
something with. So it was just sitting there for a few months. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I just knew I was going to do something. Um, so try to shorten up the story. I bought into a coaching franchise and started going with that. I've been trying to,
Okay.
it didn't go so well at the beginning and I ended up I ran out of money. So I had to go get a full-time job. But with a full-time job, I love it,
Mm,
love the job. If I hadn't made all these decisions in the
yeah.
past, I wouldn't be here today. So, God works things out for good. And I ran a blog for about a year and then I raised that. I'm running this podcast right now, and I really enjoy the podcast because I call it Redeeming Business Today because I have this business knowledge, but I have a very deep
Hmm.
spiritual background too. It's amazing when I
Hmm.
think about it. I tell people I've literally read the Bible for the last 40 years. I started when I was
Right.
about 12 reading. And
Mm,
so I have a very deep spiritual background too. So just trying to not just redeem the time in business, but be redeeming the time, using your business for the glory of God.
mm,
And that's one of the things I ask people when they're on my podcast is, how can we glorify God in our business? So it's neat because you not only get leadership principles and how to run your business and how to be healthy and all that stuff, but you also get good ideas on how you as a business can use it for the glory of God as well. And so I don't know what the future holds. We're just going forward, and God is good. And I know I've grown quite a bit the past few years in doing various things. Yep, that's high level summary of where I am today.
Thanks for sharing that. You mentioned the cash flow quadrant and how it made such a big impact on your thinking. Why do you think it made a big impact on your thinking?
It was different. I
Yeah.
mean, it basically put retirement in a different light, because
Mm,
it was, I've always been taught and told, you have this 401k, you have this
right.
retirement account. Your company will even match it. You put 500, they'll put 500 in, up to
Hmm.
this 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% of your income. And I'm kind of like, okay, I can do that. But he basically made a good case in there that that worked for people retiring in their 70s and in the 1970s, 1980s, when company pensions were still a big
Mm,
thing. And now stock market isn't always consistent
yeah.
all the time. I'd rather invest in something else. I'd rather invest in a home or real estate or something like that. Somebody said, your stock could go down to zero, but if you bought a house, it's never going to go down to zero value. The value may go down, but it's always going to be worth something. And so it was just the whole mindset of what worked in the past isn't necessarily going to work today. And the launch of getting wealthy or getting financially stable
Hmm.
path is a lot shorter, and it
Yeah.
seems to be more sure as well, because it's just as much a risk investing all your money in the stock market. You have no idea what that's going to be either. You could say, how much do I need? 1 million, 2 million, 5 million? You have no clue, because it goes up and down. So that's
Yeah.
that's kind of the big change about being an active investor versus a passive
Hmm.
investor. So I'm
Yeah.
choosing to be more of an active investor into my future, into a business or some type of investment in the future.
And I think the thing that I'm hearing too from you is that you'd rather invest in yourself than in the markets. You're saying, no, I'm going to take this nest egg, this money that I have, and invest it into something that I'm going to do instead of what the stock market's going to do or what the tumbling's going to happen in there, what you just really can't predict or know about. And I was really intrigued in your story when you said you refinanced your house, you kind of had that nest egg, and then you tried different things. In the past couple of interviews that I've had, people have mentioned the counting the cost in business and setting aside money to be able to then have a stable position to work from. So I was just curious if you'd like to share some of the lessons that you learned from that experience.
Me, way back, I think in the 17, 1800s, most people worked for themselves.
Mm,
Most people, I think it was like 9 out of 10 people work for themselves. I mean, and
wow.
nowadays, most people work for somebody else. But back in that
Yeah.
day and age, people would work for somebody else long enough to save up money to go on their own, because that was
Mm,
the American dream: have your own business, be on your own, have your own things.
yeah.
And I know there's different people. If I were to do it again, and that's basically what I'm doing today, is
Yeah.
I would keep my day job and work something at night or weekend. That's what
Mm,
I would do differently if I could do it again. And that's, some people just go cold turkey, and depending on your personality, go for it. Me, it didn't work out. And I
yeah.
realized for me that the stress and tension was there, and then my mind kind of shut down. And
Mm,
once I got a job, my mind opened up, my creativity opened back up. And I don't have as much time right now,
mhm.
but the time I do have probably more than makes up for what I was doing before. And so I'm probably advancing just as quickly today as it was at first, just because I can't work on it all the time. If if you have a
Interesting.
lot of time all week to do something, and you have two things to do, when are you going to do them?
At the last minute, probably?
Yeah, probably last minute. Yeah. But if
At
you
1
have
AM when the
yeah,
kids are in bed?
yeah. But if you have very little time and you know you need to get something done, you squeeze it in where you can. It's the same with money. It's the same with time. That I feel like there's a healthy tension there, that if you don't have enough time, or you don't want to have too much time, but if you have a little tension on your time, you tend to use your time more wisely. But
I think that's so true. I know that's exactly how I operate. And one of my favorite sayings, if you want to get anything done, give it to a busy person because busy people know that they are busy, but if they're going to get that thing done, they're going to figure out a way to do it, and they can just juggle the ball or get rid of another ball, replace it with that ball. I don't know about you, but I'm learning to say no to the things that
yeah,
aren't serving me and my family and allowing me to serve God in the capacity that I want to. I'm in a season of no, David. It's a little terrifying, but
that's
it's
good.
actually kind of
That's good.
beautiful because
That's
saying
good.
no to some of the things actually frees up my plate for my best yes, which is a book that I read probably 5 years ago. And I love that concept. Saying no is saving me for a future yes that I haven't yet experienced or isn't a part of my life right now, but will be. But there wouldn't be any time for it if I just said yes to every willy
Yep.
nilly thing that came along.
And you also have to remember that whenever you say yes to something, you're actually saying no to something else.
Correct.
And so when you say yes, you are saying no, you're closing the door on other things. And so, yeah,
Yes.
um, I understand exactly what you mean.
Recently, I've had to say no to things at church, which is like a small part of me dies because I really want to be that person that's like, yep, I can help with that. I can help with that. But the other thing that I recognized was me saying no allowed somebody else to say yes, which is kind of a beautiful thing because if it was the Trey show and the whole entire church was just me running like a crazy person around doing everything, there wouldn't be room for anybody else. And I don't think that's what church was meant to be, but I don't think that's what any organization is meant to be, you know?
Yes, that's a very good point. Yep. Share the love, share the load.
Yes,
Do
for
and
sure.
do do what you love. And that's a big thing in business. If people can get to it, is
Hmm.
what are you passionate about? What is your
Yeah.
talents? What is your skill? What do you just die to do?
Yes.
Some people have operated their businesses where they found those people passions for people and stuck them in those spots, and you get so much more volume and efficiency and effectiveness because everybody is passionate about what they're doing. And
Yep.
so if you're able to figure that out, to take a step back in your business and put people in the right spot, even if your title doesn't
Mhm.
allow that, shift the titles a little bit. That's fine.
Yeah,
Shift responsibilities, make them align with what you are passionate about. You
and what a
and that
happy work environment that would be.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's part of what I'm doing right now. I love what I'm doing because it's a little niche thing that I like to do that I've never dreamed I could get a job doing. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, exactly, and isn't that what entrepreneurship should be about, is doing the thing that you're passionate about, and like I like to encourage everybody, is to outsource the things that aren't serving you well, that are taking up all of the time, because sometimes, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but the thing that you're not good at is gonna take a lot of time because you're not good at it or you're not passionate about it,
Yep.
but somebody else could get it done in a shorter period of time for you. And outsourcing just makes a lot of sense. And I know even recently I have been outsourcing things and I'm like, I'm not really at a place where I can hire anybody, but maybe there's this small little job over here that if I outsource that, then that will free me up to be able to do more work. That's the interesting thing about the saying no as well.
Yes. Yep.
So I know that you kind of had an aha moment in your journey. Could you share for us a little bit about what that was?
About the direction I'm going
Yes, yeah.
is, people say that purpose is more discovered than thought up, and I feel like that's part of what's happened with me because I just been going from one thing to the next. I feel like in
Yeah.
the last 3 years, I started with business coaching, just strictly business coaching, and I was very generic, and so I didn't get a lot of clients because like, oh, I can help you with whatever you want.
Yeah.
But that's not how you sell things. You have to be specific. And
Yeah.
about a year in, I'm finally like, I love dads in the Bible more. So how would
Mm,
I just switch and try to influence them, help them out doing what they're doing? And that's why I went with I had a 1440 dad site, and I ran a blog for a while. And
mm.
then it was kind of like, my ideal client was probably listening to podcasts more than reading a blog. So I switched to a podcast. And there
Yeah.
again, I'm using, I realized that I can be a good coach because I'm very analytical. And
Mhm.
if you are the big person, big ideal person and gets all these ideas, but you hate the nitty gritty details, I can help you because that's what I love. And so I worked really well with those. My boss at work, he's a very big picture guy. And I've told him that, and other people have said that he comes up with the ideas and I execute it to a very high standard. And so we both thrive on each other that way. So it's good. But that's there again, that aha moment of, okay, let's pivot a little bit,
Yeah.
a little bit more. And that's where I love being able to take what I know about business. And I'm a time guy. I'm a productivity guy. Um, my wife will laugh when I can be very productive, use my time very wisely, hate wasting time. I take that, and then plus throw in the Bible as well, because I love all three of those things. And so that's, as I've gone down the journey, that's where it's gotten more and more specific, and trying to help people and just talk to people about that.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that I really value about you, David, is your ability to break down things, to be analytical, to see the system. And I think it's really interesting because in some ways I'm very opposite of that. I am a big picture person, excuse me, and colorful and spontaneous and big emotions, big passion. But I also see the value in systems and know that we need them and have worked really hard because they're not my natural inclination is to be systematic. But that's why I value people like yourself that can help with those nitty gritty details, with seeing the things that I'm going to miss. And so that's what I think is a good thing to look for in a coach. What do you think is a good thing to look for in a coach when you're looking for a business coach or just a coach in general?
Um, what do you need? What do you, as your personality, need? Uh, because I have a coach myself, and my
Yeah.
my first coach was a very general. He was a very high I kind of person, a very influencer. And I remember I kept asking him for details because I like details. And
Yeah.
he basically told me, he's like, stop asking me for details. You're going to make me mad. And I'm like, that doesn't help me at all. That doesn't help me at all. But then when I switched and I got a different coach who was very much a detail person, when I asked him a question, he could give me the details, he could give me the answers. That helped me out a lot. And so when you're looking for a coach, it's not just the certification or where they're from, but
Mm,
look at their personality, look at their communication style. Do you need that? What do you need as a person? Maybe you're a big idea person, but you need somebody with the details. Or
yeah.
maybe maybe you're just a very personal person and you just like to bounce ideas off somebody. Maybe that's good enough for them. But
Hmm.
personality, not so much personality, but communication style
Hmm.
needs to line up. And if you hire somebody within a few sessions, you'll figure that out if it's a good fit or not, because
Hmm.
you'll start getting a lot of value, or you're going to be just like, it's just okay.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's really an interesting takeaway is that you might not know on that first shot. You might not know on the first go around if it's a good fit or not.
Yes. Yeah. It
You know, I
becomes
think
obvious
sometimes it
though.
takes a little bit longer.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, I am curious. You mentioned scripture a lot, and how near and dear scripture is to your heart. And one of the ones that you have mentioned before talks about in Judges that they will know. Could you expound a little bit on why that scripture means so much to you?
Yes, and I'm still getting there in my journey. But years ago, I really felt that God wanted me to have a ministry to disciple fathers on being good fathers. Judges 2:10, the few verses before that talked about how Joshua had just died. Joshua led the children of Israel into the land of Canaan. And then it said, all that generation died. All that generation passed away, and there rose another generation who knew not the Lord, nor the things which he had done. And then you have the book of Judges. And if you know anything about Judges, they fell away from God. God brought an oppression upon them. They were under oppression, and they cried out to God, and God raised up a judge for them. The judge delivered them. And then the next generation arose. Forgot that one. And then it was just a cycle after cycle. And I just there arose another generation who knew not the Lord. And it's just like, I don't want to be that generation. I want to do whatever I can do so that my generation knows the Lord. And I know all my children, my 9 children, they know the Lord. I mean, we read the Bible every day to them. They follow God at different levels, and they've gone down different paths, and most of them are following the Lord. Some of them are still working on it to certain degrees, but they know. It's not that they don't know. They know what's right and wrong. And so that's my passion, is I want fathers to know, because I believe it's the job of the fathers to teach the children, pass it on to the children. Because if it's important to dad, it's going to be more important to the kids. If it's just important to the mom and the dad doesn't care about it, as the kids grow up, they'll be like, well, dad don't care about the Bible. Mom does, but my dad doesn't. So what big deal? So yeah. You as fathers have tremendous influence on your children. And whether you're perfect or not, I am not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But whether you follow God wholeheartedly or you're just starting your journey, just start. And it's your relationship with God is like your relationship with your spouse. The more time you spend with her or him, the deeper your relationship will be. And the more time you spend with God, the deeper your relationship will be. And it's a two-way street. You talk to him, he talks to you. In a easy nutshell, you talk to him through prayer, he talks to you as you read the Bible. So it's a two-way street.
I think that's great encouragement, and I'm so thankful that I know that my dad knows God. And I see that, not like you were saying, he's not perfect, but he sought to share the word with us, to encourage us. I even remember for a couple years there, we would have morning devotions at 6 a.m. And I'm going to tell you, I did sleep through some prayers and mumble through some things because that was very early and I'm not a morning person. But I'm really thankful that he sought to do that, to encourage us, to bring us all together, which I think is really important. It doesn't have to be at 6 a.m., but bringing everybody together to get around the Bible, to pray together, to read a word, to encourage each other. That was just such a beautiful time. And I don't think I knew it in the moment then that would be like something that I look back at super fondly now in my 40s, now that I have little kids. I'm seeking to do the same thing. We do not do it at 6 a.m. Sorry, Dad.
No, I didn't do it
but
either.
We're implementing it in our own ways. And yeah, it's so true. We can have that generational impact by being that example to our kids.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, I know that you're a business coach, so I was wondering if you would like to leave us with any practical wisdom at the end as we wrap this up for entrepreneurs and people just starting out in business.
Not everything matters equally. I mean, we all, hopefully you've all heard that. In my readings and listenings, I hear that all the time. Not everything matters equally. And just a real quick story that I've told is Mary and Martha. When Jesus went to Mary and Martha's house was one time, Martha was busy about serving, and Mary was sitting at the feet of Jesus. And Martha comes along and is like, Jesus, don't you care that my sister's left me with all the work? She thought he did. So she said, so tell her to command her to get up and help me. And he looks at her, and I can see just a soft, gentle voice. Martha, Martha, you are concerned about so many things. Only one thing is needful. Mary has chosen that. It's not going to be taken away from her. And that story is, yeah, even though we have so many things to do, only one thing is
Mm,
really needful. That's your relationship with God.
mm,
And God honors those who honor him. And as you start on your entrepreneurial journey, yes, you're going to have to get who's my ideal client. You're going to have to get a good product or service. You're going to have to do marketing. You're going to have to do sales. You're going to have to do all that stuff. But watch your relationship with God. Keep God
mm.
first, keep God center, and it will go fine. It with God first, family second, and business third. I've realized that sometimes your business doesn't take off and launch and excel the speed you may want it to, but
Mhm.
it still does.
Yep.
And so
I think
godliness with
that's a
contentment is great
wonderful
gain. But yeah,
I think that's a wonderful encouragement, and I remember when I met with a networking coach, and I told him that I wanted in, that I wanted to be a part of his community, and I said, "But I have to tell you something. I know that you want me to have this as a high priority in my life, but I'm going to tell you, God's going to be first, and then my husband, and then my kids, and then my church, and then my business, and then this networking thing is going to be sixth. But I want you to know that
yeah,
I have the right priorities, and I'm going to pour everything I possibly can into it being number six." And I was actually MVP of the team last year.
okay, very
And
good.
everybody said that I was the person that was really modeling what it meant to be a team member. And that has stuck with me because you're right. It is the right keeping things the right perspective. And I think in business, we can kind of get things out of order. And I know that there were definitely times where I wasn't keeping God where I needed to be. So I really, really thank you for that encouragement. And I'd love to help people get connected with you. How can we get connected to David Schmidt and what you're doing with Redeeming Business?
Well, if you want to listen to my podcast, it's Redeeming Business Today podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon Music. I do have my website up right now, so it's www.redeeming business today. If you want to go there and check it out. Right now, social media, I'm just on LinkedIn. I'm
That's a great
just
place to
posting.
be.
Yeah, I'm just posting right now. I'm not super active because that's not me. That's not me.
And
And so
that's
I'm going
okay.
to advance my business, not doing a whole lot of, so I will do something on some social media, but I'm not going to go all in on social media, even though I know a lot of online people do that, because that's not me. That's not the authentic me. So I
Yep.
will
You have
go
to do
about it
what's authentic to
slightly
you. And I
different way.
appreciate that.
I'm, I'm there to provide value and I'm there to build relationships, but that's how you can find me.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time today. I really, really appreciate all that you've shared. And I know that I'm really encouraged. So we're just going to wrap it up. And thanks, David.
All right. Thank
Bye.
you very much, Trey. Nice to be here.